Hi there, I'm Corey Driver. This is Moving Forward. So today we're talking about Pentecost. And before we start talking about what Pentecost is, we need to talk about what Pentecost isn't. First, the first Christian Pentecost in Acts 2 is not the first Pentecost. Pentecost is an old Jewish festival by this time, celebrating first fruits and celebrating 50 days since the Passover. That's where the Penta comes from in Pentecost. The first Pentecost is at Mount Sinai. Now, what else about the Christian Pentecost in Acts 2? It's not about hearing multiple languages that we don't understand. That's the Tower of Babel. The miracle of the first Christian Pentecost is that people heard languages they did understand. Everybody heard their mother tongue. You don't have to adapt. You don't have to learn something else. You don't have to acculturate to hear the Spirit of God speaking directly to you through other humans. That's the miracle. Step 3. Another thing that the first Christian Pentecost was not about: Gentiles. Womp womp. But that's okay, right? We have read the book. If you haven't, let's do it. Acts 10 happens, right? We'll get there in not too long. And if you think back, Exodus 12:38 tells us that the very first Pentecost was a multi-ethnic event, and the rabbis argue multilinguistic as well. So Gentiles have been included since the beginning, since there was a Pentecost, and we'll get there again in the New Testament as well, okay? So no worries, but that's actually good news. And if you hang on for a couple minutes, we'll get back there. So everybody is hearing, preaching, and proclaiming through the Holy Spirit in their own language. But what are they hearing? What's the content? Well, for a lot of it, we don't know. But one thing we do know that they all heard and understood was Peter giving a sermon. And like we all do, Peter turned to the book of Joel. I know that's my first choice. And preached a message. And the message is this: sons and daughters will prophesy. Young folks will have visions. Old folks will dream dreams. And God's servants, and there's a couple ways to interpret this. I'm choosing to interpret it as actually enslaved humans, will also prophesy. The message that Peter is proclaiming in words that everybody understands, not just in their head, but also in their heart, is that gender is not a barrier. Age is not a barrier. Personal status, enslaved or free, is not going to be a barrier to the kingdom of heaven. And it goes even further. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. That's the message of Pentecost. That's what people take home with them when they return from their Pentecost pilgrimage to all the places across the bounds of empires. When they return to their homes and, hey honey, how did the pilgrimage go? Well, you'll never believe it. Joel was preached in our language. And so as we continue reading, we don't stop at Acts 2. We don't stop at the first Christian Pentecost. We don't stop at Jerusalem. The message goes out, and in Acts 8 it goes out to Samaritans who hear the good news of Jesus, are baptized, but then something else is needed. They need to be touched. The Samaritans who are really uncomfortable in the New Testament, right? The folks about whom a good Samaritan was supposed to be an oxymoron because there couldn't be such a thing, have to be touched. That's the thing. The disciples have to touch them publicly, right? To say, look, this is good for you both. We're included. And that happens after Pentecost. And then one of my favorite passages, we just talked about it, the Ethiopian Eunuch, right? Not a Gentile. That matters, right? If you haven't heard of Menelik, look him up. These are cousins of Jewish people. The issue of inclusion is that the Ethiopian's body is differently sexed, right? And the Holy Spirit makes an appointment to say, look, included also this person with their bodily reality being what it is. I make an appointment to make sure that y'all know the differently sexed folks are included. And that's after Pentecost. And then finally, I said finally, I wish I hadn't because that matters. We get to Cornelius. And European descent folk, after everybody else, are also included in the work of the Holy Spirit. 10:45 and 46. Everybody's amazed. The people who were there at Pentecost are like, Gentiles too? Can you believe it? And that's after Pentecost. What's the message? Pentecost is amazing. It's my second favorite church holiday. We love it. But the work of Pentecost is a beginning. We don't get to say, oh, cool, multiple languages, Jews from all over. Sweet, I guess we're done. No. We don't get to say, oh, Samaritans, they're included. We thought they were really gross and synchronized, practiced all kinds of different religion stuff. They're included too? That's really good. I'm pretty sure we're done though. No, differently sexed bodies. Are we good? Is that the entirety of the kingdom of heaven? No. Even European descent folk. Are we solid? Is that it? No. The work of Pentecost is ongoing. In no way can we in the church today say the work is done. Everybody who's supposed to be included is already included. That ain't it. The message of Pentecost, the good news of Pentecost, is that God's Spirit is going further than we could ask, further than we can imagine, further than we can even dream. And everybody across any kind of human boundary that we make is going to prophesy and is going to see the Lord. And everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. That's the good news of Pentecost. And for that, we say thanks be to God.